The night sky over Earth looked calm and ordinary, but far above, something unusual was happening. In a small observatory on the outskirts of a quiet town, Dr. Lena Morales sat in front of a series of monitors, sipping her cold coffee. She had spent years studying the stars, searching for patterns that no one else noticed. Tonight, she was monitoring a frequency she had never focused on before. The screen flickered as numbers scrolled across, but suddenly the pattern froze. Something was different. At first, Lena thought it was a technical glitch. Machines sometimes did strange things at night. She checked and double-checked, running diagnostics and testing the system. Every time she did, the signal appeared again, clear and unmistakable. It was a series of pulses, perfectly timed, unlike anything natural. She felt her heart race. Could it be a secret military experiment? Or maybe some rare cosmic phenomenon? Lena knew deep down that it was something more. She called her colleague, Dr. Remai Singh, who had worked with her on several radio astronomy projects. Remai was skeptical at first, laughing and saying it was probably just noise. But when Lena sent him the raw data, his laughter faded. He stared at the screen for a long time, his face growing pale. This isn't natural, he said quietly. I've never seen anything like this. Word spread quickly through the observatory network. Soon, teams across the globe were monitoring the same signal, each confirming that it was not an error. Governments were alerted. Scientists scrambled to decode it. Journalists smelled a story that could change the world. And everywhere, ordinary people went about their lives, unaware of the invisible message from the stars. In a small apartment in New York City, Alex Turner, a young journalist, stared at his phone as messages from colleagues and friends flooded in. The news was fragmented, confusing, and strange. Aliens? Galactic warning? He muttered, shaking his head. He wanted to dismiss it as a hoax, but something about the way experts described it made his stomach twist. He had covered wars, natural disasters, and political scandals, but nothing like this. Meanwhile, in a military command center hidden deep underground, officers gathered around glowing screens. They spoke in hurried, clipped tones, trying to assess whether this signal was a threat or just a curiosity. Admiral Harlan Royce, a veteran of decades in intelligence, leaned forward, eyes narrowed. "If this is a warning," he said, his voice low but firm, "we need to treat it as real. Every possibility must be prepared for." Back at the observatory, Lena and Remai worked tirelessly. They deciphered part of the signal, noticing patterns that hinted at intelligence behind it. It wasn't just random noise from space. It had structure, rhythm, even something like language, but they could not fully understand it. Then, amidst the coded pulses, a single word seemed to emerge: escape. Lena froze, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She looked at Remai. "Did you see that?" she whispered. He nodded slowly. "I did," he said. "And I think we're in trouble." The word spread like wildfire through scientific and military channels. Escape, it was a warning, but a vague one. No one knew exactly what to escape from or where to go. Panic began to ripple through those who understood the gravity of the message. Governments debated, scientists theorized, and ordinary people remained oblivious, living their lives under a sky that had suddenly become a threat. At a small school in rural India, 12-year-old Arav looked up at the stars during a break from studying. He didn't know about the signal or the word escape. He only saw beauty, twinkling lights in the vast darkness. His grandmother, sitting beside him, smiled softly. "The stars have always watched over us," she said. Arav nodded, unaware that tonight the stars were sending a warning, one that humanity was only beginning to understand. In the heart of Europe, Dr. Elise Werner, an astrophysicist, was woken by urgent calls from colleagues. The signal had reached her lab, and she was pulled into an emergency meeting. Screens displayed the same pulses Lena had seen. The word escape flashed on her monitor, and she felt a chill run down her spine. "If this is real," she whispered to herself, "we are in more danger than we can imagine." While scientists and military personnel worked around the clock, ordinary life continued. People walked in cities, unaware of the cosmic warning that hovered above them. But behind the scenes, preparations began quietly. Space agencies reviewed evacuation protocols, military units were placed on high alert, and emergency plans were drafted, though no one wanted to fully reveal the situation to the public. Fear, they knew, could be more dangerous than the unknown itself. Back in the observatory, Lena and Rami noticed something else in the signal. The word escape was repeated in a pattern interspersed with numbers and coordinates. Could it be pointing to a location? A safe place? Or a method of leaving Earth? The uncertainty gnawed at them. Lena ran simulations, trying to understand what it could mean, while Rami coordinated with other scientists across the globe. Despite all their experience, the feeling of helplessness was real and terrifying. Alex Turner, the journalist, began writing his first notes. He wanted to report the truth but struggled with how much to say. Public panic could be catastrophic. He interviewed scientists, military officers, and ordinary people who were beginning to sense something was wrong. Each story was different, but a single theme ran through them all. A message from somewhere beyond Earth had arrived, and it carried a warning that could not be ignored. Night after night, the signal continued. Its rhythm became almost hypnotic, as though the universe itself was calling out. Lena often sat alone, staring at the screens, feeling the weight of humanity pressing down on her shoulders. She thought about her family, her friends, and every person who would one day look up at the sky without knowing what waited for them. She felt small, yet strangely responsible, as if she and a few others were the first humans to hear the warning. Rami, equally exhausted, broke the silence one night. "We can't fully understand it yet, but one thing is clear," he said. "It's real and it's urgent. Whatever is coming. It's not friendly." Lena nodded, swallowing hard. They both knew that their lives and the lives of every human on Earth were about to change. As news slowly trickled into the media, reactions varied. Some people laughed, claiming it was a hoax or government conspiracy. Others panicked, buying supplies, building bunkers, or fleeing cities. In offices, schools, and homes, the word escape circulated like wildfire, a whisper of fear that spread faster than any virus. Humanity had been given its first warning, and the clock had started ticking. By the end of the week, the reality was undeniable. The signal was consistent, intelligent, and clear. Earth was facing something beyond its understanding. Scientists, journalists, and military leaders were united in one grim thought. The warning was real, and humans had no idea what was coming. The night sky that had always inspired wonder now carried a sense of dread. And humanity was waking up to a truth it had never imagined, and somewhere, far beyond the reach of Earth's telescopes, the beings who sent the signal waited. They watched, patient and unyielding. Their warning had been sent. Whether humans would understand it in time or survive it remained uncertain. The world awoke to confusion and fear. News outlets ran stories about the mysterious signal, though details were scarce. Governments tried to calm citizens, but the leaked word escape spread quickly through social media, causing panic in cities and towns. People bought supplies, gathered families, and debated whether to stay or flee. Fear had arrived before the explanation, and humanity had no plan for the unknown threat approaching from the stars. In Washington, D.C., world leaders held an emergency summit. Conference rooms overflowed with military officials, scientists, and strategists. Everyone argued, everyone had ideas, but no one had answers. Admiral Harlan Royce insisted that humanity had to prepare for every scenario. "We do not know if this is a warning, a threat, or a test," he said, his voice sharp. "We cannot gamble with the survival of our species." Some leaders wanted to hide the truth from the public, fearing mass hysteria. Others argued that transparency was necessary to organize an effective response. Meanwhile, in the quiet lab in Switzerland, Dr. Elise Werner and her team were making slow progress decoding the signal. It was clear that the message was intelligent, deliberate, and urgent. They noticed sequences that resembled coordinates, energy patterns, and instructions, but nothing made complete sense. Elise often stayed up all night trying to make sense of the alien code. She scribbled equations and maps across sheets of paper, frustrated and determined. The word escape appeared repeatedly, paired with what looked like timing indicators, suggesting that time was running out. In New York, Alex Turner, the journalist, walked the crowded streets. Shops were open, schools ran as usual, but tension was in the air. People whispered, eyes darting upward to the sky. Alex interviewed citizens, capturing their fear, disbelief, and curiosity. Some believed the world was ending, while others insisted it was a government hoax. In cafes and subways, conversations repeated the same question: escape from what? No one had answers, only fear. At a military base in Nevada, soldiers trained in secret. They practiced evacuation drills, emergency protocols, and defensive maneuvers. They worked alongside engineers and scientists, trying to adapt technology to an unknown threat. Engineers developed plans for temporary shelters and emergency spacecraft. They ran simulations late into the night, testing every scenario they could imagine. Each test ended with a realization: no human technology could yet match what might be coming. In rural towns and big cities alike, ordinary people began preparing in their own ways. Families stocked up on food, water, and medical supplies. Some left their homes for remote areas, seeking safety and isolation. Others built underground shelters or converted vehicles into mobile havens. Fear inspired creativity and courage, but it also caused arguments, hoarding, and panic. Communities struggled to organize, while misinformation spread as fast as the signal itself. Lina Morales and Raymai Singh worked with a growing network of astronomers and engineers, attempting to decipher the alien instructions. Each day brought tiny victories and new frustrations. The signal suggested patterns that might indicate travel methods, safe locations, or tools to use in case of evacuation. Lena often stayed at her observatory for 20 hours at a time, fueled by coffee and adrenaline, while Ramai coordinated with colleagues in other countries, comparing findings and theories. Their lives had become consumed by the warning, yet they knew the world depended on understanding it. In Japan, a private corporation announced plans to build a series of escape modules. Their engineers promised rapid construction, energy-efficient designs, and limited interplanetary travel. Skeptics ridiculed the effort, saying it was impossible for humans to escape Earth on such short notice. But people didn't care. Some invested everything they had in hopes of survival. Families began signing up for the chance, while governments debated whether to regulate or assist private evacuation efforts. Meanwhile, social unrest grew. Riots erupted in cities where panic was highest. Grocery stores were emptied, roads clogged, and law enforcement struggled to maintain order. People argued over supplies, space in shelters, and access to technology. In small towns, neighbors banded together to share resources. But even there, fear whispered like a shadow over every decision. Humanity's instincts were split between cooperation and survival, unity and chaos. Alex Turner documented everything. He spoke to scientists, military officials, engineers, families, and refugees. His stories captured the chaos, courage, and desperation of people facing an unknowable danger. He wrote of parents keeping children calm while hiding fear in their own eyes. He wrote of scientists arguing over the correct interpretation of alien symbols, and of engineers working endlessly to build ships that might never leave the ground. Every account showed that humanity was struggling to prepare, yet determined not to give up. In London, a team of young students hacked into satellite feeds, hoping to find more information about the signal. They noticed strange objects moving in deep space, near the outer edges of the solar system. The images were fuzzy, but the shapes suggested technology far beyond anything humans had built. They shared the images online, causing further alarm and sparking debates about government transparency. Some people claimed the images were fake, but others believed them wholeheartedly. Panic, hope, and determination mixed into a strange brew that spread across every continent. As the days passed, small victories kept humanity hopeful. Lena and Ramai discovered repeated sequences that hinted at a safe location, though it was unclear whether it was on Earth or beyond. Elise Werner confirmed that some parts of the message were mathematical, suggesting the aliens wanted to communicate, not immediately attack. In Nevada, soldiers successfully launched test spacecraft, proving that evacuation even on a small scale was possible. Each small breakthrough inspired new efforts and renewed determination. But the shadow of the unknown remained. Ordinary people became heroes in their own ways. Farmers built hidden caches of food and supplies. Teachers helped students understand what might happen. Engineers improvised devices that could generate power, filter air, and provide temporary shelter. Across the globe, humanity showed resilience, courage, and ingenuity. But fear was never far behind. Families argued over whether to leave or stay. Governments argued over who should control resources. Scientists argued over interpretations. And the aliens watched silently, their intentions still unclear. One night, Lena stared at the sky and thought about the future. She imagined the Earth from far above, fragile and tiny, surrounded by darkness. She thought about Raymai, her family, and the millions of people she would never meet. She realized that humanity had one chance to survive, but the chance was small, and the stakes were unimaginably high. She took a deep breath and returned to her screens, studying the signals, mapping coordinates, and running simulations. Raymai joined her, carrying a cup of coffee. "We may not understand everything yet," he said, "but we can give humanity a fighting chance." "That's enough." Lena nodded, knowing he was right. The signal had given them a warning. Now it was up to humans to prepare, adapt, and fight to survive. The world had been shaken, fear had spread, and chaos was growing. But among scientists, soldiers, and ordinary citizens, hope burned bright. Humanity had one warning, and they were determined to act. As cities slept and storms passed, humans all over the world worked quietly, building, studying, planning, and praying. The word escape had ignited a fire inside them, pushing them to think beyond ordinary limits. The first step in preparing for the unknown had begun. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the reach of human eyes, the beings who sent the signal continued to watch, waiting to see if humanity could rise to the challenge before it was too late. The sky over Earth changed in ways no one could ignore. Strange lights appeared at the edges of the atmosphere, glimmering like distant stars but moving with purpose and precision. In observatories across the globe, scientists stared in disbelief. Lena Morales rubbed her eyes and leaned closer to the monitor. The shapes were unmistakable now. They were not comets or satellites. They were enormous, metallic, and moving with intelligence. In the Nevada military base, alarms rang. Soldiers ran to their stations, scanning the skies. Admiral Harlan Royce barked orders, coordinating radar, satellites, and communication channels. Confirm their size, trajectory, and speed. Track every movement. Prepare for contact. The room buzzed with urgency. Every officer knew that Earth was no longer alone, and these visitors were far beyond anything humans had ever encountered. Alex Turner, the journalist, was on the streets of New York, capturing live footage of the strange lights. People looked up, pointing and gasping. Children clung to their parents, and strangers held hands in shared fear. Social media exploded with images, videos, and speculation. Some called it an alien invasion. Others dismissed it as a natural phenomenon, but the experts insisted otherwise. These objects were massive, silent, and clearly controlled. Dr. Elise Werner studied the movements from her lab in Europe. The alien ships were deliberate, avoiding Earth satellites but scanning the planet carefully. They weren't attacking yet, but their presence was a clear message. Earth had been noticed. Elise ran simulations, trying to predict their next moves. Every calculation left her uneasy. Their technology was beyond comprehension, faster than any known spacecraft, capable of maneuvers that defied human physics. Humanity's best weapons and defenses were irrelevant. Back at the observatory, Lena and Raymai watched the signal from space continue to pulse. The word escape repeated in intervals, synchronized with the appearance of the alien ships. Lena felt her heart pound. "They're giving us a warning," she said. "They're telling us to run." "But run where?" Raymai shook his head. "We don't know. But we can't waste time." In small towns and large cities alike, people reacted in different ways. Some fled to remote areas, hoping to hide. Others barricaded their homes. Panic swept through crowded streets, and emergency services struggled to maintain order. Governments issued statements urging calm, but the world had already seen the ships. Fear and confusion replaced normal life overnight. At the Nevada base, soldiers ran drills with urgency. Engineers worked to ready spacecraft for emergency launches, but there were only a few, and they could carry only a fraction of the population. "We have to prioritize," Admiral Royce said grimly. "Scientists, engineers, medical staff, the rest. We'll have to find another way." The weight of his decision settled on everyone in the room. Lives would be lost, no matter what. Meanwhile, ordinary people tried to make sense of the situation. Families argued over whether to trust the government, try to escape on their own, or hide in shelters. Communities debated how to distribute supplies and organize evacuations. Amidst the chaos, small acts of courage appeared. Teachers guided students to safety, neighbors shared resources, and strangers helped each other without knowing who might survive the night. Humanity's instinct to protect and endure was visible even in fear. Alex Turner continued his reporting, moving from city to city, capturing the human response. He saw parents comforting children, scientists explaining the impossible, and soldiers readying themselves for the unknown. Every person reacted differently, but the fear of the alien presence was universal. He documented arguments over evacuation plans, volunteers helping those too old or sick to move, and families saying goodbye with trembling voices. His stories carried the emotion of a world on the brink. In Japan, engineers rushed to finish escape modules. The ships were ready for tests, but fuel and energy limitations meant only a few could leave. People queued in anticipation, fear etched in every face. Some refused to leave their homes, unable to accept the reality. Others ran to the modules, hoping for a chance at survival. The streets were a mixture of chaos and determination, as if the entire world held its breath. From space, the alien ships moved closer, scanning Earth's surface with precision. Their technology was beyond imagination. Lena studied the new data, realizing the aliens had mapped the planet with speed and intelligence. They were not attacking directly yet, but every movement suggested readiness, like hunters watching prey. She shared her findings with military leaders and scientists, but even the best minds struggled to interpret alien intentions. In Europe, Elise Werner observed signals coming from the ships. They pulsed in patterns similar to the original message. She decoded fragments that suggested the aliens were aware of humans' limitations and wanted them to understand one thing: escape was the only chance. But there was no instruction on how, no explanation of what would happen if humanity failed. Every unanswered question added to the fear spreading worldwide. As night fell across the planet, cities illuminated with artificial lights, reflecting humanity's fragility. The alien ships hovered above, silent and enormous, their shadows falling on forests, oceans, and towns alike. Families stayed indoors, watching the sky. Scientists ran calculations that would decide life and death. Soldiers readied weapons, though they knew it was likely futile. Everyone awaited the next move from beings that were beyond understanding, beyond reach, and beyond compassion. Lena and Ramai worked through the night. They noticed that the alien ships avoided certain areas, perhaps indicating where humans could have the best chance to escape. "We need to map this," Lena said. "Even a small chance is better than nothing." Ramai nodded, compiling coordinates, safe zones, and timing data. Each piece of information could mean the difference between survival and extinction. Meanwhile, panic continued on the streets. Traffic jams clogged highways as people tried to flee cities. Emergency shelters filled beyond capacity. Governments imposed curfews and rationing, but enforcement was difficult. Social unrest rose in some areas, while in others, communities came together. Everywhere, the presence of the alien ships forced humans to confront their own vulnerability. Fear, courage, hope, and despair mingled in the air. In the midst of chaos, ordinary people displayed extraordinary bravery. Scientists stayed at their labs, studying signals late into the night. Soldiers protected civilians, guiding them to safety. Volunteers risked their lives to deliver food, water, and medical aid. Humanity's instinct to survive, to help, and to adapt shone even in the darkest hours. The word escape was not just a warning anymore, it became a call to action, a challenge, and a hope. As the first days of contact passed, humanity realized that this was no ordinary threat. The alien ships were patient, intelligent, and powerful. They could strike at any moment, yet they observed, calculated, and waited. Lena, Remai, Elise, Alex, and countless others understood that the coming days would determine the fate of the planet. Decisions would have to be made quickly, sacrifices accepted, and courage summoned from every corner of the earth. In the quiet moments, when lights flickered and people whispered prayers to the stars, humans looked up at the sky and understood one thing clearly: the world had changed forever. The alien presence was real, the threat undeniable, and the warning unmistakable. Escape was not a suggestion, it was the only chance to survive. The first contact had been made, and the future of humanity hung in the balance. The world was no longer the same. The alien ships hovered above, massive and silent, while humans scrambled to find a way to survive. Panic and determination filled the streets, laboratories, and military bases. Every plan, every decision carried the weight of the species. Lena Morales and Remai Singh worked tirelessly, mapping the coordinates that might offer the best chance of escape. Each day brought new calculations, small victories, and devastating frustrations. In Nevada, soldiers prepared spacecraft for launch. Only a few could be ready in time, and only a fraction of the population could leave Earth. Captain Elena Ramirez oversaw the operations, her eyes sharp and her voice steady. "Load the scientists first, then engineers, then medical teams," she said. Every launch required precision, courage, and discipline. Mistakes could cost lives instantly. Volunteers rushed to help, moving equipment, fueling engines, and securing passengers. Meanwhile, ordinary people improvised. Families converted vehicles into makeshift shelters, carrying food, water, and supplies. Some dug underground bunkers, hidden beneath forests and fields. Neighbors shared resources and knowledge, teaching each other how to filter water, generate power, and protect themselves. Communities that had never worked together before now collaborated for survival. Fear pushed humanity to extremes, but it also brought out acts of courage and ingenuity. Alex Turner traveled between cities, documenting stories of survival and sacrifice. He reported on parents carrying children through chaos, neighbors guiding each other to hidden shelters, and volunteers helping the elderly reach evacuation points. He captured moments of terror and bravery, writing accounts that would be remembered long after the crisis. For him, every story was a reminder that even in fear, humans could rise to extraordinary challenges. The first spacecraft launches were tense. Engineers double-checked every system, soldiers loaded passengers, and scientists whispered prayers. As engines roared to life, smoke and fire filled the launch pads. Some ships lifted successfully, breaking free of Earth's atmosphere. Others malfunctioned, exploding or crashing in clouds of fire and debris. Survivors screamed, mourned, and kept moving. Humanity's attempt to escape was chaotic, desperate, and imperfect, but it was happening. In Europe, Dr. Elise Werner coordinated the mapping of safe zones for escape. Using satellite feeds and alien movement data, she identified regions where humans could move safely and avoid detection. The alien ships were powerful but not omnipresent. If humans acted wisely and quickly, a chance existed. Elise worked around the clock, sending instructions to governments, scientists, and volunteers, knowing that every second counted. Across Asia, families moved through forests, rivers, and mountains. They avoided cities where panic had turned violent. Food was scarce and exhaustion set in quickly, but determination pushed them onward. Parents comforted children with whispered words and soft touches, even when their own fear was overwhelming. Communities shared knowledge about edible plants, clean water, and shelter. Each step forward was a small victory against the impossible odds surrounding them. In Japan, the private escape modules were launched under strict supervision. People who had invested everything in these ships watched nervously as engines ignited. Some modules lifted successfully, climbing into the dark sky with a roar and a trail of fire. Others faltered, forcing passengers to abandon hope or return to the ground. Engineers worked tirelessly to repair damages and prepare the next wave. Every successful launch was celebrated, while every failure served as a harsh reminder of the stakes. Lena and Ramai tracked each launch, calculating trajectories and predicting safe landing points. The alien ships moved with purpose, scanning Earth carefully, testing humans' reactions. Lena felt the tension deep in her chest. Every misstep could be fatal, every delay dangerous. She sent updated coordinates and instructions to evacuation teams, hoping her calculations were accurate. Every person she helped save was a small victory in a world that had become unpredictable and deadly. Soldiers faced impossible decisions. Some were tasked with protecting civilians during evacuations, while others were ordered to hold positions against the alien surveillance. Captain Elena Ramirez had to choose who would leave first, knowing that not everyone could escape. The weight of these choices pressed heavily on her, but she remained focused, determined to save as many lives as possible. Each decision carried consequences, and the uncertainty of alien intentions made every action critical. Meanwhile, in rural areas, ordinary people found innovative ways to survive. Farmers dug hidden tunnels beneath barns and homes. Teachers created makeshift schools in bunkers, keeping children safe and distracted from fear. Volunteers carried supplies across rivers and forests, guided by maps provided by scientists. Small acts of courage multiplied, creating networks of survival that spanned entire regions. Humanity's instinct to endure, protect, and adapt shone brightly amidst fear. Alex Turner captured it all. He recorded families waving goodbye to those leaving on spacecraft, soldiers marching alongside refugees, and volunteers risking their lives for strangers. His footage became a testament to the human spirit, showing that even in the darkest hours, courage and compassion persisted. He wrote about the fear in people's eyes, but also about the determination that refused to let despair win. As days passed, humanity learned to adapt. People moved with purpose, coordinated with teams across continents, and followed instructions from scientists and military leaders. Evacuation points became hubs of organization, with doctors treating the sick, engineers repairing damaged vehicles, and soldiers guiding civilians to safety. Every small success gave hope, while failures reminded them of the fragility of life. The alien ships observed quietly, enormous, and unyielding. They scanned, calculated, and waited, testing humans' resilience and intelligence. No attack had come yet, but their presence alone was a constant reminder of danger. Lena and Ramai realized that survival depended not on strength but on cleverness, speed, and courage. Humanity had to adapt faster than the alien observers could anticipate. Some spacecraft reached orbit, carrying hundreds of humans beyond Earth. The view from above was breathtaking and terrifying. Cities burned below, smoke rising from chaos and failed escapes. Rivers and forests were filled with people fleeing, desperate to survive. The planet looked fragile and vulnerable, yet humans clung to hope. Every successful launch represented life saved, a small victory in a war that had not yet begun. In the quiet moments, Lena reflected on everything that had happened. Humanity had faced panic, confusion, and fear, but it had also shown courage, creativity, and resilience. People had adapted, cooperated, and sacrificed, proving that survival was possible even in the face of unimaginable odds. She looked at the stars, knowing the alien presence was still out there, watching. Humanity had escaped the first wave, but the real challenge was only beginning. Ramai joined her, exhaustion visible on his face. "We saved some," he said, "but many will not make it." Lena nodded, her eyes on the screens showing escaping spacecraft. "We did everything we could," she replied. "The rest is out of our hands." Together, they continued to work, guiding those who still had a chance, knowing that every action could determine the fate of countless lives across the world. People continued to flee, hide, and survive. Families held each other close, volunteers risked everything, and soldiers fought to protect the vulnerable. The alien ships watched silently, a constant reminder that humanity's struggle was far from over. Yet hope persisted. Every life saved, every spacecraft that launched, every act of courage was proof that humans could face the impossible and endure. The word escape had become a mantra, a guiding principle, and a warning. Humanity had responded, adapting and fighting in ways no one had imagined. But as the last rays of sunlight disappeared over the horizon, the future remained uncertain. The aliens had not attacked, but their presence was undeniable. The war for Earth was beginning, and the days ahead would test the limits of human courage, ingenuity, and survival. The world that remained was quiet, broken, and scarred. Cities that had once thrived were now empty shells, streets littered with abandoned vehicles, supplies, and remnants of chaos. Smoke rose from places where panic had turned to disaster, and rivers and forests were dotted with people who had survived by hiding or fleeing. Humanity had escaped the first wave, but the planet itself was changed forever. In orbit. The first spacecraft carried hundreds of humans away from Earth. Inside, there was a mixture of relief, fear, and exhaustion. Scientists monitored the alien presence, engineers checked systems again and again, and ordinary people tried to rest after days of chaos and terror. The view of Earth from space was breathtaking yet sobering. Blue oceans and green forests were still visible, but the signs of panic and destruction were undeniable. For many, this was both a miracle and a tragedy. Captain Elena Ramirez paced the control deck, speaking quietly to herself and her crew. "We made it out, but this is just the beginning," she said. Engineers and passengers nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Survival had been achieved, but the question remained, what next? The aliens had not attacked directly, but their intent was unknown. Every decision now mattered, for humans and their fragile civilization. Back on the ground, Lena Morales and Raymai Singh continued to track alien activity. They had survived the initial encounters, but they could see the aftermath. Entire neighborhoods had been evacuated or destroyed. Survivors moved carefully, helping each other find food, water, and shelter. Small communities emerged, working together to endure. Humanity had been tested and had shown resilience. But the lessons of the first wave were clear. Adaptation, courage, and unity were essential for survival. Alex Turner moved among the survivors, documenting stories of heroism and loss. He wrote of families reunited after days apart, of strangers risking their lives for each other, and of communities coming together in ways no one could have imagined. He also recorded the sorrow and grief, the empty streets, and the lives that had been lost. His stories became a testament to the human spirit, showing both vulnerability and strength in a world that had been forever altered. In Europe, Dr. Elise Werner analyzed data from the alien signals. She discovered patterns in the timing and movement of the ships that suggested intelligence, observation, and perhaps judgment. The aliens had tested humans, watching how they reacted, adapted, and survived. Elise shared her findings with the remaining scientists, emphasizing that humanity's response had been noted. Every act of courage, every attempt to escape, had been part of a larger evaluation. Ordinary people adapted to the new reality. Farmers rebuilt small communities, using knowledge from pre-evacuation plans. Teachers created informal schools, helping children understand survival and hope. Volunteers worked tirelessly, providing medical care, distributing food, and guiding refugees. Every effort mattered, for those left on Earth had no choice but to endure. Humanity had been challenged, and every act of compassion, intelligence, and bravery was now a lifeline. In orbit, humans began planning for the future. Some ships carried only small groups, while others were intended for long-term survival. Engineers and scientists worked on repairing damage, building new systems, and creating ways to communicate with Earth. Captain Elena Ramirez coordinated with her team, knowing that long-term survival depended on preparation, organization, and learning from mistakes. Every decision mattered, and every action could ensure life for generations to come. Lena and Ramai watched. Satellite feeds of the remaining humans on Earth. Communities had formed in safe zones. Sharing knowledge and resources, people adapted to limited supplies, creating shelters, clean water sources, and renewable energy. Despite fear and loss, humanity's resilience shone. Lena realized that survival was not just about escaping danger, but about rebuilding, learning, and finding hope in the smallest of acts. Alex Turner interviewed survivors about their experiences. Parents spoke of protecting children, neighbors spoke of helping each other, and soldiers spoke of making impossible choices. Every story showed how humans had responded under pressure, displaying ingenuity, courage, and compassion. Alex knew that these accounts would be remembered long after the events had passed. Serving as a record of humanity's first encounter with a galactic threat, the alien ships had retreated slightly, maintaining observation from a distance. Their presence was still felt, a reminder of power beyond human comprehension. Elise Werner hypothesized that the aliens were judging humanity's ability to survive, adapt, and endure. The first contact had been a warning, the first wave a test, and the current state a reflection of humans' response. Lena and Ramai shared this insight with leaders, scientists, and survivors. Reinforcing the need for unity and careful planning, communities on Earth began to rebuild. Focusing on survival and adaptation, people planted crops, dug wells, and reinforced shelters. Knowledge sharing became essential, and new leaders emerged from those who had shown courage and intelligence. Ordinary humans became heroes, creating networks of survival that spread across continents. Fear remained, but it was tempered by determination and hope. Humanity had been tested, and though the scars were deep, the spirit endured. In orbit, scientists and engineers worked on long-term survival plans. They explored possibilities for sustainable life in space, studying resources, energy, and communication. The goal was not just to survive, but to thrive and to be ready if the aliens returned. Captain Elena Ramirez emphasized cooperation, reminding everyone that the survival of humanity depended on teamwork, foresight, and courage. Every day was a lesson, every challenge an opportunity to learn. Lena and Ramai reflected on the journey so far. Humanity had faced an unprecedented threat, endured panic and chaos, and managed to survive through courage, intelligence, and unity. The world had changed forever, but the first warning had not been ignored. Humans had adapted, escaped where possible, and learned to survive under extreme pressure. The alien presence remained a threat, but humanity had proven its ability to respond. Alex Turner wrote his final reports on the initial encounters, capturing stories of fear, hope, courage, and loss. He documented the chaos of evacuation, the brilliance of human ingenuity, and the strength of compassion in the face of disaster. His words would become a record for future generations, a reminder of the resilience and determination that defined humanity's response to the first galactic warning. As Earth slowly stabilized, survivors began to hope. Small communities continued to rebuild, scientists shared knowledge, and governments coordinated efforts for recovery. Those in space planned for long-term survival, knowing that Earth could be reclaimed or further defended in the future. Humanity had faced an existential challenge and had taken the first steps toward survival. In the quiet moments, when the winds blew across empty streets and the stars shone brightly above, humans reflected on the lessons learned. Courage, ingenuity, cooperation, and compassion had been their greatest tools. The word escape had become more than a warning. It had become a lesson in survival and resilience. Humanity had been tested and had endured, proving that even in the face of unimaginable threats, life could continue. The alien ships remained in orbit, distant but watchful. Humanity had survived the first wave, but the future remained uncertain. Lessons had been learned, strategies formed, and hope preserved. Scientists, soldiers, volunteers, and ordinary people had all contributed to survival, showing that courage and determination could defy even the most impossible odds. Lena, Ramai, Alex, Elise, and countless others looked to the sky with cautious optimism. The first warning had been heeded, humanity had acted, and life continued. The Earth that remained was fragile, but the human spirit was stronger than ever. Across the planet and in orbit, the message was clear. Survival depended not on strength alone, but on unity, intelligence, and hope. The future was uncertain, but humanity had endured.